Let's talk about Sad Satan. This game has been a topic of controversy and confusion for years. A video game? Controversy? How? Well, this game was from the dark web. Okay, well, partly true, I think. So for this video, I've decided that I'm not actually going to play the game for myself. I've tried downloading a version of it, sure, but my antivirus keeps blocking it from being downloaded. So I guess I'll just leave it at that. I refuse to harm my laptop, and I've heard that this game can give you viruses. So yeah, not happening. I've also had a look on a website called itch.io, and there's about 4 versions of it, and I don't trust any of them. But I'm still going to take you through this game, as well as the images that pop up, including some background story to these images, as well as the game itself. So as we run through the game, let's talk about it. Sad Satan. A game allegedly from the dark web. This game was apparently made by a man from Texas named Gary Graves. He created this game using a game engine called Terra Engine. Gary is currently spending 10 years in prison for having child abuse images on his phone. He was put in jail in 2017, meaning he still has 5 years in prison. And if you ask me, 10 years in prison for a crime such as child exploitation just isn't enough. Apparently, the owner of the YouTube channel Obscure Horror Corner downloaded the Sad Satan link from a Tor hidden service in which he was told about it from an anonymous subscriber. There's one particular claim from a Reddit user named ScareBearZK who publicly mentioned that he was in fact the creator of this game. The only problem with that is by admitting that he was the creator of the original game, he's also possibly admitting to using cheese pizza within the game, meaning that he's admitting to being only one thing: a paedophile. Now from this outcome we can't be sure of much, except that the owner of this ScareBearZK Reddit account could only have possibly been Graves. We definitely know that Graves owned a YouTube channel called ScareBearZK. The post showing ScareBearZK on Reddit admitting that he made the game went with a caption like this: "This guy needs to shut up. Like pretending to be a pedo that made the 4chan version is downright disgusting. Bro, he also claims he made the one that OBC played. Bro, like, shut the fuck up. We all know that this is a remake. Look at the date of this post. Let's not forget that Graves was jailed in 2017. So how could this possibly be him?" Now this whole Reddit post was made 5 months ago, and the screenshots came from 1 year ago, meaning that this whole thing could have happened right at the beginning of 2020. And now this is a little interesting rabbit hole, but as the timestamps don't really mean anything on this particular screenshot, There's not actually much that we can say about this, but anyway, let's cut back to Obscure Horror Corner's YouTube channel. People were skeptical about this game, as it came from the deep web. It was possible that this game would include unsavoury things, such as gore and cheese pizza. Obscure Horror Corner denied that these themes were present within the game. However, in a second interview, Obscure told the interviewer that a link he had given to the game, which contained invalid letters, didn't work, nor did he want it to work, as he admitted that this game did, in fact, involve pictures of this nature. Another version of Sad Satan was made not long after this, in which a bunch of people downloaded. They would complain soon after that their computers would run slow, or wouldn't even work again after booting up the game, and apparently somebody also tried booting up the game from a USB stick, in which the computer shut down completely and would never boot up again. Since covering the game we're going to talk about today, OHC's YouTube channel has remained abandoned. So what's up with the game itself? Without knowing any background story, the game itself doesn't look like anything too special. You walk down monochrome corridors with distorted and strange sounds constantly playing. Some of them are looped, some of them are in reverse, and some of them have pitch changes. The player is followed around by what seems to be a child throughout the game, in which, spoiler alert, the player will inevitably die after being killed by the child. There's also various codes that can be seen throughout the game that translate into something, of which I've managed to find details of these codes. Whether this is what these codes really mean, I'm unsure of, but it's the best that we have right now. The game also includes audio with various murderers, as well as distorted or reversed versions of music, including the song I Love Beijing Tiananmen, reversed speech from the Swedish Rhapsody number station, and a verse from the Doors' rendition of the Alabama song. As you traverse these corridors, images of murderers, sex offenders, and political pictures also pop up, as well as gore in a couple of versions of the game. The true version was rumoured to have child sexual abuse within it, but whether that version is real or fake, let's hope that that's buried underground forever, never to be seen again. So what's the story of this game? Taking into account the creepy little girl trying to kill you, the pop-up images of sex offenders, and the overall messages that can be perceived within the game, it's quite safe to say that this is a game relating to child abuse. With that in mind, let's move on to the key features of the game, the images and the audio recordings. And let me just mention that there may be a couple of things that slip under the radar. The true version also contains apparent gore, which I'll also talk about. Now, I've done a lot of research into each and every audio recording and image within this game. Some I can't find a backstory for, some are theories, and some just seem to be there. I've been scouring the Sad Satan subreddit through every single post, looking for every bit of information that I can find about this game, so we can finally put this game to bed. However, it's really not that easy. In another true version of this game, accident and murder victim pictures pop up, including somebody who's been struck by a truck, a beheading, as well as other gore images. 3 of these gore images are apparently pictures of the murder victims of Richard Cottingham. One version of the game apparently also included a screen cap of an image of a child sexual abuse video that was produced by sex offender Corinne Danielle Motley, which is apparently G5 on this screen cap, taken from Reddit. The other 4 images, G1, G2, G3, and G4, are all gore images. Now these particular images won't be mentioned when I take you guys through the game, as the version I'm going to be showing is that from Obscure Horror Corner. The version uploaded to YouTube was a safe version of the game. Whether the safe version contains malware or not is completely unknown to me. All I say is that it's best you don't go looking for it once you've heard my description here. Downloading the wrong version could get your data, passwords, and personal information in trouble, as well as your hardware such as laptops or computers, and I'd rather not be responsible for that by telling you to go and check it out. So I'd highly recommend looking for a version of the game at all. All credits go to Obscure Horror Corner for the gameplay. So we talked about audio recordings earlier. Just a minute into the playthrough, you get the Swedish Rhapsody station numbers in reverse. It's basically just a woman saying numbers in German, but it's reversed. It's also quite distorted. Franz Josef. This man was a hunter. The picture you see of him here is him posing with his hunting trophies. There doesn't seem to be any connection to child abuse, but the picture is pretty creepy nonetheless. At around the 8-minute mark, there's some very distorted and slowed down music. Now I know that the Doors song The Whiskey Bar is included within this game, and comparing them side by side, the original to the distorted, slowed down version, it sort of sounds alike. Whether or not it really is that song or not is quite unclear. You also have a slowed down growl, which could be the same growl from the sound files within the game, named growl.ogg. This lasts for about a good 2 minutes. A backward version of a line from the song Stairway to Heaven also appears, presumably a line that sounds like the singer is saying Sad Satan, which I can only presume the name of the game was inspired by, accompanied by this picture of Jimmy Savile and Margaret Thatcher. Jimmy Savile was a paedophile and believed to be in many paedophile rings. He was a very famous man for many years and did an absolute ton of charity work and good work for the United Kingdom overall. He was good friends with Prince Charles and Princess Diana and hung around with some very high up people. He had his finger in many pies. He had keys and was an honorary staff member of 2 hospitals. It was soon found out, unfortunately after his death, that he may have watched female patients as they were naked in the bath, as well as performing sexual attacks on the victims. As his career went on and Savile got older, he began to openly express his hate for children, saying things like they should be eaten at birth. However, in my opinion, this was obviously a ruse to divert people away from the fact that he was sexually abusing young girls. Now, this particular image of Savile and Thatcher is particularly concerning, and as you can see, he's clearly holding up an NSPCC sign used for a charity that's meant to protect children. Now, it's very unfortunate that this man was caught in 2011 after he died. People never came out about Savile, as they were terrified of him. He was rich, knew people, could afford the best lawyers, and had a lot of power. He was also knighted after Thatcher had pushed to knight him 4 times. This picture also shows up 4 times throughout the gameplay, maybe as a reference to the amount of times that Thatcher tried to get Savile a knighthood, maybe even knowing that Savile was a paedophile. The words rescue with key, suffering, the locked door. An objective is what we've been searching for the first 10 minutes of the game. The objective points towards rescuing somebody with a key to stop their suffering. What that suffering is, we're unaware of, but we have a faint idea. There's not much to read into about this objective. An image of a girl with her head tucked into her chest. While not gory or doesn't seem to be related to sexual abuse in any way, the image is still creepy. The black and white filter, with the way the child is posing, is pretty scary. The words in nomine del Satanus Luciferi excelsi. This phrase means in the name of our god Satan, Lucifer on high. Now apparently these words are used to represent satanic ritual abuse. The phrase is taken from a black mass, which is a ceremony celebrated by many satanic groups. Now this one's just a theory, as we can clearly see. It's just a satanic Latin quote. There's nothing to indicate that this image is related to child abuse, and is most likely using the themes of Satanism and abuse just for a creepy factor. We have more distortions as well. Now these are incredibly hard to make out, and I'll possibly come back to some of this at the end, explaining what I could have missed and what's apparently also in the game, on the less obvious side of things. Picture of JFK before he was shot. This is probably here as many conspiracy theories were created after his death. Again, creepy, but doesn't seem to have any relation to abuse. A picture of Baphomet. A child appears here after this image. The image itself fits in with other satanic themes, and again, theorised but not proven, could be insinuating the use of satanic ritual abuse. However, it could have also just been put into the game to catch you off guard and for the creepy factor. Now around this point is where the actual theme of child abuse comes into play. So far, you've had a picture of a well-known serial killer, a paedophile, some writing about ending suffering, and now this, a sad little girl who looks completely destroyed. And the more you look at the girl, the more you can sense that something is wrong. Like the map itself, her features are chromatic, and they blend in with the environment. You only get a moment to examine this NPC, as you're hit very loudly and suddenly by the sound of screaming. This screaming, called darescream.wav in the game files, sounds blood-curdling. But not to worry though, this scream is merely just a stock scream. There was speculation on this scream that this was actually the scream of a victim of abuse. However, this theory was quickly debunked when it was found that it was just stock audio from YouTube. We're taken into a room where we're surrounded by young females. Now there's a theory that I want to make here. At the start of the video, I told you about Gary Graves, a convicted sex offender. It's possible that the protagonist of this game is in fact Gary Graves. These girls surrounding him may be victims that he's exploited and abused in the past. You are basically playing the game of Gary Graves, a sick son of a bitch, haunted by numerous victims of exploitation. Now, as it's only alleged that Graves made this game, it's entirely possible that it was not, and that this was made as a way to mock Graves, created out of anger for this disgusting human being. But then again, why spend a large amount of time making a game for a man who will more than likely never see it? Why spend time making a game for somebody like Gary Graves? Now this theory would be highly unlikely to be correct, but it's just a thought that I had in my mind while making notes for this video. Remember that list of codes that I showed you earlier? We reach the point of the game now where that set of codes comes into play. Now I'm hoping that I get these right, as I'm far from a code solver, so I'm just going to tell you guys what I saw in that order. The first code here was solved by a Reddit user called Cyberham, whose Reddit account has now been deleted. The code apparently says, "I can track you." This could relate to the apparent malware within the game files, and the fact that the malware now enables the hacker to keylog you. It's around this point we get the first Charles Manson interview. The pitch is lowered, but you can tell that it's a Charles Manson interview. The voice is very clear, and you can hear what's being said. Apparently around this part, if you're stuck in a certain area, there may also be text that comes up saying, "Patience, why?"
I live where there's no TV, there's no radio, there's no clocks, there's no electric lights. The girls carry water, they don't wear makeup, they have their babies by themselves. They go in the shack and squat down and have their babies. I live on the ground, I live on the earth. I lived in Hollywood, and I had all that, the Rolls Royce and the Ferrari, and the pad in Beverly Hills. I had the surfboard and the Beach Boys and the Beaskies and the Neil Diamond and the Rob Scott and the Jimmy Schiffrin and the Elvis Presleys, Mesca Bestleys and all them guys. The Dina Martins and the Nancy Sinatras and the Gaffer Saffron. Will you do it to me? I hear you do it good, honey, and all that kind of, will you come up to my house later? So I went through all that, and I seen that was a bigger prison than the one I just got out of, and I really didn't care to go back to prison. See, prison doesn't begin and end at the gate. Prison is in the mind. It's locked in one world that's dead and dying, or it's open to a world that's free and alive. Drugs, LSD, I don't consider a drug. I don't consider peyote a drug. Those are more or less religiously significant awareness, mind-expanding apparatuses that come from the intelligence of the universe. The reason that the girls liked me was, hey now, I'm all around you, round you. Hey now, up on your heart I can sing through you. And I play and I sing, and they say, hey man, you got soul in that music. And I said, yeah, I play a little bit, you know. I like music. And they said, man, you're really somebody. I said, oh, I am? Oh, I just got out of jail. I don't know what somebody is. They like my music. They say, man, we want to get you over. I said, get me over for what? They said, we take you down here to Beverly Hills and we want to get you in because you're a star. I said, I'm a what? They said, you're a star. So they took me to the Beach Boys, and I went and I got on the surfboard and I rode around and I looked and I said, gee, Huela chingazos, this is more trouble than what I just got out of. You got look at yourself. You got to wear that, whether you like it or not. You got to do things. You got to get up and go through all kinds of changes, whether you want to or not, doesn't matter. Your whole life is put in your paycheck. You couldn't pay me all the money in the world to do something I don't want to do. If I'm shoveling the barn and you want me to go desk every rumflop, I say, no, I'm doing something right here. I'm helping this blind man. I feel better in doing what I want to do. I did not break the law. Jesus Christ told you that 2,000 years ago. You don't understand me. That's your trouble. Not my fault because you don't understand me. I don't understand you either. But I don't spend my whole life trying to put the blame over on you because my cigarette didn't light or because something didn't work right. What do you want to call me a murderer for? I've never killed anyone. I don't need to kill anyone. I think it. I have it here. I don't need to live in this physical realm. I walk around in the physical realm, and I put on the faces, and I talk, and I play and hang. Yeah, it's this big act, man. In the spiritual world is where I live. I exist in places you never even dreamed of. You talk about, this little physical realm you live in, guilty, and is he in sin? Well, how's your courts guilty? How many people do you think you've hung on the ventilators in the nut wards and forced medication on them? You see what I'm saying? You don't have any idea what the hell's going on. If you knew what the hell was going on in your own system, then you'd say, now I see what's creating this. Society's creating it. Society's saying, we want these Rambos. We want these killers. Oh, wow, man. Look at that dude there. And you got little kids looking in the book and where they're selling Sears and Roebuck. Rambo from 12 to 15. Kai Karate from age 5 to 17. And you got all your kids out here doing these crazy things. Now you want to come and say, Charlie Manson's the father of our country. We're convicting you for being Jesus Christ. We're convicting you for being the devil. We're convicting you for being responsible for our actions. I'm not responsible for anyone's actions but my own actions. In my whole life, I've burglarized the grocery stores, sold some nickels and dimes, busted open a stamp machine, stole a few automobiles, and cashed a couple checks. I'm a petty car thief. I've been with prostitutes and bums and winos and all my life. The street is my world. I don't pretend to go uptown and be anything fancy. I can, but I find more real in the world that I'm in than I do the tinsel. And the real world is the one I have to deal with every day, Believe me, if I started murdering people, there'd be none of you left.
And now this second code appears after you listen to the first Charles Manson interview. The same Reddit user, Cyberham, decoded this as, "You are on my list." There's text saying that suffering doesn't end. At this same point, we have another Charles Manson interview. This one isn't edited in pitch or anything. It's the same looped statement over and over again. As this is happening, a new section of code comes up. Again, thanks to Reddit user Cyberham, the code translates to 5 victim smiley face, hail 666, sad people died. There's also some short text that comes up saying, "Stop this." This could either count as a plea towards the player of the game, or aimed at the subject of the game itself. A plea from a victim, maybe. And we get a final bit of code that again has been decoded by Cyberham. The code apparently says, "I can track you. Good luck. You're alone. Buried. Help me." Now again, this could be referring to the malware that has now been put onto the player's computer. Either that or both codes relating to the malware could just be an edgy attempt, attempting to scare the player. This is a reversed version of a song from a video game called Hong Kong 97, named I Love Beijing Tiananmen. The audio is slowed, reversed and pitched to be higher. Hong Kong 97 is a game that was made in 1995 and is considered to be one of the worst video games of all time. So bad that it's actually received a cult following. This particular audio is from that video game. Tsutomu Mizuyaki, the otaku murderer. His picture is shown 3 times within the game. One with his eyes and mouth scribbled out in red, one just as a regular picture, and one with his eyes blackened out. Mizuyaki abducted, raped and killed 4 girls. He was a serial killer, rapist, cannibal, and necrophiliac. Lady Justice. A photo shown to perceive, more than likely, the lack of justice, or the desire for justice. We continue walking along a little more, where there's some more distorted, backwards speech. This is Johnny Rotten talking about Jimmy Savile being a hypocrite, and that he would like to kill him. Johnny Rotten, or John Lydon as he goes by, was a member of the Sex Pistols, then went on to pursue a solo career, and then create a band known as Public Image Limited. John Lydon spoke about Jimmy Savile a long time before Jimmy Savile was publicly outed, because Savile was the king of TV and radio. Nobody was inclined to believe Lydon about the things that Savile was doing behind closed doors. He states that Jimmy Savile was into all kind of seediness, and that he knew some rumours. Clearly, Lydon was not wrong. Lydon was banned from the BBC for outing Savile as well. We get more text that reads, "Stop doing this." Again, this could be aimed at the player playing the game, or perhaps be words of the victim. There's an adult man in this area too, with his back facing you. We hear an interview with Jimmy Savile. It's reversed, but it's Jimmy Savile replying to a question about the fact that he hasn't broken any laws. Obviously, we know that this is a lie. We get the text, "Everybody's ready for the party." It's unclear as to what this means. However, it's speculated that this could be relating to the illegal sex parties that Savile was involved in. This can be backed up by the fact that, yet again, the image of Savile and Thatcher is shown. Followed by this, the quote, "Come in and have some fun," is also shown, possibly also speculating what I mentioned previous. Rolf Harris, an Australian sex offender and musician. Harris also worked closely with Savile. The picture appears twice within the playthrough. Harris was accused of watching patients undress at Broadmoor where Savile worked. He also appeared on Jim'll Fix It once or twice. Now you may notice a little drop in video game quality here. Part 5 of this game was deleted by Obscure Horror Corner for some reason. Luckily, an account with the same name was able to re-upload this, but it's in 360p from 2 years ago. Now the things I've seen on Reddit check out with this particular version of Part 5, so I kind of know that it isn't a phony or a joke video. And again, credits to, well, Obscure Horror Corner but with like 40 subscribers. Andre Escobar, 27-year-old Colombian football player. After scoring an own goal in the 1990 FIFA World Cup, Escobar was murdered. This is an image of him. Apparently his parents set up a foundation to help disadvantaged kids learn to play football after he was murdered. Now it's unusual that his picture is in this game, and I can't really come to a conclusion as to why it's used. Roman Polanski, film director, producer, and actor. In 1977, Polanski was arrested for the rape of a 17-year-old girl in Los Angeles. He fled from London, trying to escape sentencing, and ended up in France, eventually ending up in Switzerland. Now we've seen that the creator of this game has included quite a lot of dialogue from the Charles Manson interviews. This picture of Polanski makes sense, as Polanski's pregnant wife, Sharon Tate, was in fact killed by members of the Manson family. Now this also ties in with the pictures of Rolf Harris and Jimmy Savile. These are people who were all very high up in the world, rich, famous. Most of the people pictured in this game could pay off anybody that they wanted. They could get away with anything. This is a picture of druids at Stonehenge. Again, like the satanic pictures, there's no link between this and abuse. Maybe it's to do with the cultish-like behaviour of the druids, but we're not sure. There's some more audio that begins, and I'm led to believe that this is a slowed down, reversed and lower pitched version of the song Scarborough Fair by Simon and Garfunkel. The final code in the game was decrypted by a user named Beloved Stump. This translates to expose everything. I know you. BBC failed. All hidden. Again, BBC failed most likely refers to Jimmy Savile. The BBC had Jimmy Savile as a host for over 40 years. The BBC apparently protected Savile, as you heard in the John Lydon interview about him. They knew the rumours. They never protected the children harmed by Savile. And in the end, everything was forced to be exposed. The victims spoke up about him, and the BBC could only look on in disappointment over the man they had supported and loved for over 40 years. Everything was now in the open. We hear wolves howling at an extremely high pitch. The girl then runs into the player, in which the sound effect from the game, hit1.ogg, can be heard. The character dies, in which we're black screened for just a moment. The stock scream can be reheard, and the game ends with a low pitch and speed version of the song Lynch Mob by KMFDM. Now, as I mentioned about halfway through the video, you're probably still a little bit confused about the versions of this game that exist, or have existed, even after seeing this video. The one I've just explained was in fact the original game, the fake OHC version that nobody was ever able to find a link to in the end. So what other versions do we have? There's quite a few. The 4chan clone troll virus version. Now this is the clone that actually did involve the virus and keylogger. This is the first playable version that held gore and illicit material. This version was banned by the FBI. The true alternative remake of the OHC version. This was the version with only gore and no cheese pizza. This was found as a media file link, hosted by ScareBearZK. The Blind Stark version. This is another 4chan version, which replaces the gore and the illicit imagery with safe for work images. The itch.io version. This is probably the most popular version today. This was a version created by the Reddit user pretending to be the real ScareBearZK. This contains nothing. No gore, no illicit material, no pictures, no malware and keylogger. It's probably the safest version you can obtain, and the game itself is on itch.io. However, I still wouldn't trust it. This only contains the gore images, as well as the images you see in the OHC version. Now, I can't tell you personally the differences between each of the versions, nor have I played them or seen any of them, aside from the clean version of OHC's playthrough. For all I know, that could have all been bullshit, but that's what I've learned through a Reddit post. I know that various YouTubers have played at least 2 versions of this game. We know the original OHC one was played, and it seems like various YouTubers have played the version including gore, except have blurred it out. And that's all I've really got to say about Sad Satan. Hopefully with all the evidence we've got, all the Reddit posts and the Sad Satan subreddit, we can finally put this game to bed and stop speculating about it. And who knows, maybe one day OHC will come back to YouTube and tell us all that this game was very, very real.